well, let's call it the Golden Circle. The Golden Circle, ladies and gentlemen, is the one in front of. He's walking directly behind it now.
Okay, welcome to Bigger Than the Game with Deremy and Jose. We're doing a rewatch in honor of the 60th anniversary of the first Ali Liston fight, or at this moment it's Liston Clay.
Yes.
So we're doing that for 60 years, Jose. February 25th, 1964. They're in Miami, and we see the champion, Sonny Liston. At this point, you can definitely say the baddest man on the planet. He's coming into the ring right now.
Thunderbird Hotel. That's what he's sponsored by. But that's fine. I'll take any sponsorship, right? Deremy and no, but you can look at him, man. Like, this Liston is a bad dude, man. You talked about it. He's the most feared man in sports probably at this point right now, and we talked about it at the podcast episode. Like, this is probably the oldest event that we've done. Probably like Ali Frazier was like 50 years when we did it. So yeah, this is 60 years, man. I love that it's black and white. And we talked about this great fight on the podcast episode. Now we wanted to sit down and watch it with everybody. Can't wait for this, Deremy.
Right. So for a companion piece, we didn't look at round by round the fight. We talked about the build-up, the legacy. That's what we do on this show. But here on the YouTube channel, we're looking at the fight. Now, Jose, is it a little bit louder for you?
Yeah, I can hear it. You don't hear it?
No, I hear it. It's hard to hear you.
Oh, no, I don't. No, I'm good. I can hear you fine. I don't know if you can hear me, though. Willie P.
Yeah, Bundini Brown.
Yeah.
An awful lot like Cassius Clay.
And here's a heavyweight on the comeback trail. 5 KOs.
This is so great. I love that they have all of this.
The popular Californian Eddie Machin.
Yeah, Eddie Machin on the comeback trail, Deremy.
And real close to ringside, ladies and gentlemen, a man who has been acclaimed as the greatest.
Joe Louis?
Yeah, I think so.
3-time middleweight champion.
Oh, no.
Sugar
Ray
Ray
Robinson. That's right. Yeah, he was here too.
Yeah, I forgot.
You've seen it before. Ray with a
arguably the greatest fighter of all time.
Yeah.
Suit on, looks great, looks perhaps younger than he's looked in a long time. Congratulated and wished Clay lots of luck. Did the same with Sonny. Says hello to the referee, and now the announcer.
And doing the commentary over.
Look at this. There's a lot of anticipation, man. There's a lot of energy in this arena. You know, I know we don't think of like Miami like as a fight destination, but again, this is the 60s. You're going to fight where you get sanctioned at, and but you can see this crowd, man. The crowd is ready to go.
Heavyweight champion, the Brown Bomber.
Is that smoke in the air?
And there's Joe Louis.
There he is. I'm trying to think if that's smoke or is that just the kind of like the cameras they have.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. You could have a lot of smokers back. You could smoke in the arena back then too.
Yeah.
So it's
Radio, the undefeated
there you go.
Heavyweight champion of the world, Rocky Marciano.
Yeah, everybody here, dude.
Yeah.
Like, this is a big deal, man. Rocky Marciano.
Unbeaten, untied. Back to the ring announcer.
This bout
here we go.
is under the auspices of veterans of
Well, you talk about people now hype up the size, and Ali, I think, was bigger than what people thought, even though it shouldn't be a surprise because he had fought and you knew he was 6'3". But people now, you saw like Robert Lipsight and Burt Sugar all on like documentaries talk about he's just so much bigger. He's taller, but he's only like a couple inches taller.
Yeah.
And his weight, technically, Sonny Liston's heavier than, young Cassius Clay at this time.
Yeah, no, Clay was not known for his size. You know what I mean? Like, he was here, he was known for his speed, agility, and boxing ability, man. That rhymed like Ali. But, yeah, I didn't look at this as like he was so much, Liston was so much bigger, or Ali was so much bigger.
And the referee.
Pretty even when it comes to size. I think Liston's a little heavier, like you mentioned, but that's probably it.
Yeah, 6'1" for Liston, 6'3" for Clay here.
Well, Liston was like 218, something like that for this fight.
Yeah.
strikes, weighing 210.
Yeah, he's 210.
and
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
the former Olympic light heavyweight champion,
he was
Cassius
a light heavyweight
Clay.
champion. Yeah, 19-0, 15 KOs, you know. So at this point, he was knocking dudes out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And his opponent from Denver, Colorado, weighing 218 pounds, wearing the black trunks
From
with the
Denver, but
white
at this point, he was living in Philly,
the
right?
heavyweight
Yeah, he had left Denver and gone to
champion of the
Philly.
world, Charles Sonny Liston.
So one thing that, like,
15
people do
rounds,
talk about it, but it's not talked about as much. Like,
will follow.
you saw it there, they had him at 31 years old. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
his age is disputed.
right, I've seen a lot of like reports that at this point in time he was closer to like 40 years old. You know what I mean? Like, and if you look at him, and I know dudes back in the day used to look older. I don't know why, but you know,
Technology and medicine is why.
yeah, well, yeah,
All
but
set now.
you know that can explain a lot here too. You know what I'm saying? Like where you know you got this guy who's this incredible speed in Cassius Clay, and then like fighting pretty much like an older guy. He's almost like 20 years older than him, possibly. Like, that's a big deal, man.
Well, yeah, because there's some things that say you see 1932, 1930. The writer who wrote one of Sonny Liston's like first books was said like he thinks is like in between 1919 and 1921 he was born. So
Right.
you never really knew how old Sonny Liston was.
And for those who don't know, like he didn't know. Sonny Liston
Mhm.
didn't know how old officially he was. So
I think he was the 24th out of 25 kids.
yeah, that's a lot, man. But as you
Look
can
at
see
how-
here, yeah, look how smooth he is in the ring, man. And he's moving around, and you can see already, like Liston already, like is already reaching a lot, man, for him. So that's going to come into play later on.
Well, I think Liston wanted to end it quick. You know, he hadn't had a lot of long fights up recently, you know,
Right.
because that's how dominant he was. So he kind of knew, like, especially with a guy who's moving around a lot, like he doesn't want this to go fast. I mean, long.
Good long left lead that might keep the champion a bit
Yeah,
off balance.
both guys, beautiful jabs. We talked about it. You know, Liston's reach was like 84 inches, one of the longest reaches that I can remember, and especially back then. You know, but Ali at 6'3" had a nice reach as well.
But
Now
you
he's
just
already
look at Liston's build. Guys with that kind of build usually aren't known to have a long
Right.
reach. That's what's like impressive about it.
One thing, if you don't mind,
Yeah, he's
at
stocky,
long
man.
range
Yeah.
with hands low. We're
Which is why
halfway through
it just
round
makes
one.
sense why he, not just because of his demeanor and how tough and the attitude he had, but just physically he's so unorthodox. He's a tough fight in that regard, where if you're a guy, you know, there were some heavyweights who were taller, but, you know, you're thinking that's a given. I have the reach advantage. No, you don't have it. And,
Right.
oh, I have the bigger, you know, power, my bigger fist. You don't have it with this guy. Like, it's just different with Sonny Liston. He's real unique in that way.
Yeah, and early on, you can see Liston really struggling, you know, trying to even get a punch in. You know what I mean? Like, he's missing a lot of shots. You know, so one, you got a guy who's moving around a lot, but two, you're missing a lot of shots, and that's a great recipe to be exhausted, you know, in a couple of rounds, and that obviously is going to come into play in this fight as well.
Look at that combo.
Beautiful combination. Started with the lead right hand, which he's not starting to throw. Look at that. Yeah, and I think Cassius Clay at this point is like really like, all right, like I think I got this dude. You know what I mean? Like he's starting to like fill in, starting to open up a little more. But you got to be careful with Liston.
Yeah,
Don't
Liston
open
has
up too
that power,
much.
so he knows Angelo Dundee's probably talking to him that he has to keep moving, but because Liston has that knockout power, as we've seen. But it's just an impressive round that, like you said, Liston can't get to him. He can't hit him, but just really dabbing him. And they're still going after this round here.
Yeah. Still going. Yeah, where's the ref at? What is he doing?
Yeah, no, well, he's like, I don't want to get in the middle of these two. But he's, you know, letting the fist fly. Well, great first round for Clay.
Yeah, I think it's an easy round for Cassius Clay.
overhead camera into the
And I bet you if you're in that arena in Miami that night, after this first round, you're kind of looking around going like, what the hell did we just see here?
Yeah, what is going on here? Yeah.
Because, you know, they had probably never seen Sonny Liston look like that ever. So look at the
yawning. Tell us what you think at the end of one.
He's yawning, Deremy, in the corner.
and he's
That's
a young,
amazing, man.
he turned 22 a month before, so he's a young 22. And just that cockiness and that brashness and just, man, we not talked about enough is for great what ifs in sports is what if he didn't, we could have gotten more of him in his prime, like
5
looking
more
like
years,
this.
right?
Yeah.
I know. That's true, man. He would have fought a lot of other guys, and he would have looked really, really good, you know?
Would have been so dominant.
Right. And that could have been even, like, helped him later on, you know what I mean? Like, not having to take all those shots, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, when he comes back and stuff, so. That's a good, yeah, that's true. That's a what if that's not discussed enough.
Look
Because
at that,
he was so
though.
great. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
He's playing with him, man. And you can see when you got a guy like this, like a Sonny Liston, who's a knockout artist, used to getting in there. When the guys like this moving around and keeping you on the outside, it's very frustrating, and you start to lunge just like he's doing right now. And you really start to open yourself up to a lot of counter shots.
And Clay's using his reach on him. You know, he's beating him to the punch, literally, not just with the jab, but also with that reach. You know, putting him at bay with that defense, putting his head on, you know, his glove on his head, and just kind of frustrating him.
Yep.
Has his own style, and it's confusing for the champion to fathom.
Look at that, just the constant head movement, just unbelievable.
Yeah, and Liston is not landing any shots.
And this is one of the 10 greatest heavyweights that we're looking at in Sonny Liston too. This is no chump by any means.
Right.
This is a great fighter, and he can't get anything on him.
Yeah, beautiful movement, man. Just staying away from that right hand. Like head fainting, like he's got him, man. Like he's. Now this is where you don't want to be if you're Cassius Clay.
The champion is clubbing away, and then of course the challenger has to move him away.
And even Liston, man, like he's got some nice head movement as well. You know, a lot of these jabs at least throwing are not connecting.
No, Liston. You know, one thing we look at with guys, I think, when we overlook a lot of guys who are great with their offense, we don't think about their defense. And these are guys who both have great defense in their repertoire as well, and great defensive fighters. So it's not going to be easy to just tag on Liston either. Like, he's going to make you work for it too.
He wants to use it as a left lead,
yeah, Liston looks very uncomfortable.
And then rip the body.
Well, because there's nobody, even Floyd Patterson, when he beat him those 2 times, Floyd tried to go, he did the complete wrong thing. Customato tried to tell him to move around, but Floyd just stood there and was able to get teed off for him. So we can really say he's never fought anyone like this.
No, not at this size either. Because we mentioned Patterson during our episode, and it's just like Patterson was a smaller guy, but he did not move around like this, which is obviously his downfall.
No, I think that's just what's interesting. People, because of, you know, don't think about how big at 6'3" he's doing this, you know. And it's funny that there's always that talk, and I love Bruce Lee, and that Tarantino movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it brought that conversation back up, because he had a Bruce Lee character for a little part in the movie, and about like, oh, would he beat, you know, I think he said Cassius Clay in the movie at this point. And it's just funny to me because I was talking to a buddy of mine who was like, he loves MMA, and I like MMA a lot too. But he was like, oh, Bruce Lee would. I'm like, no, man. At this point, when he's Cassius Clay, Bruce Lee's never seen anything like this.
No.
And Bruce Lee is 5'6", 135. Clay is 6'3", 210 to 215, and has got better footwork than Bruce Lee. So it's like, nah, like at this point, Bruce Lee's not beating him. Like, he's not doing anything with him.
He's connected now. Like now he's hit him with two good right hands, and nobody's ever seen Liston like this. Liston has one loss. That was very early on in his career. But
look at everybody on their feet at this point.
He's tagging him, and Clay's trying to respond, and he just could not connect. At this point, he's got a lump under his left eye.
And he's fighting wild at this point.
Right.
Liston's really fighting wild.
Exerting more energy.
A big mouth below his left eye. He has a cut below the eye.
Look at him. Man. He looks exhausted already.
Mm-hmm. He knew he didn't want to go deeper into the fight, which I don't think anyone was talking about, minus, Customato. It wasn't going to be for him. And, Clay had said, going to beat him in round 8. So that's also on his mind, too.
Now, folks, we're halfway through round 3. Sonny.
Man, he's still got a long ways to go in this round, and he's already been hurt. Look, those punches don't have the same power that he had in the first round already.
No. Well, a lot of controversy with this fight, Jose, is Sonny Liston with his shoulder.
Yeah.
And, was it tendonitis or all those things. Do you think that's BS or do you think that's legit?
No, I think that's BS. You know what I mean? I just think that was the excuse he used for that way, which we will see. He doesn't get up from the stool. Now, he might have had tendonitis, you know what I mean, in his shoulder, but I don't think that's affecting him. It didn't affect him any other fight. Ooh, he almost caught him with that right hand, though. That would have ended the fight for Liston.
Later on, Ali said, those hits, he took some of his hardest hits were from, Sonny Liston in his career. Up there. I think Ernie Shavers probably number 1, but he said Liston was up there,
Yeah, Ernie Shavers is a lot of people's number 1.
Yeah. I don't know how people survived his shots. I really don't.
7 or 8 seconds more.
Yeah, I don't know either, man. That was a hard-hitting dude.
Yeah. But you can see, I do believe, this round goes to, young Cassius, but I definitely think Liston got some shots in there, too, that definitely hurt him.
Right, and this is probably Liston's best round, other than the other round, which we'll get into that as well.
And I think it was an awful round for Liston.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it's at the end he got a little bit in there. I think one of the shots at the end got him, but I think
early on he was getting his ass kicked. Yeah,
I think it's if I'm scoring it 3 rounds to 0 for Clay.
Oh yeah, that's easy. Yeah,
he saved himself from I think he made it 10-9 at the end instead of being a 10-8 round in my opinion.
Yeah, he came on strong at the second half of that round, but early he almost went down that first part.
As I was saying, he loses, but it's 10-9. Then at first it was this is 10-8. This is not good, but it's closer.
But Clay did talk to Sonny.
So he's already up.
Hey man, he's 22. He's young. Potentially fighting a 40-year-old.
Yeah.
We don't know how old. We don't know. So, but also that's also psychological warfare, which we know no one did that better than Ali, just getting into your head. So, to show you didn't really hurt when really you probably did get a little hurt, but I'm standing up, I'm ready. All these things, we'll never know, but how hard it is to block that out in a fight. Where if you're thinking you're fighting your own mental stuff, I'm tired, my shoulder might be hurting, I'm worn out, I'm struggling to hit this guy, and then he looks fresh.
Yeah.
You have to overcome that. It's so hard for a fighter.
Yeah, and some guys, man, know how to use that to their advantage, and at 22 already, he's using it to his advantage. He's got to get out of that outside. Oof.
It's just amazing. We look at Ali and what makes him a great fighter, you got to look at it. Who had, and we know what happened after his career, even during it at the end. We saw the stages of it, and it's a shame. But who could take a punch better than him? Like,
Right.
and I think of all the things
Minute 25
of what makes
seconds
him a
to
great
go in the
fighter,
fourth round.
I really do
Sonny has
feel
some
like
puffiness
right at the top of the
below
list
his
is his
right
ability
eye
to take a
now.
punch.
Right. So at this point, he's hard to hit, and then when you get that opportunity to hit him, he's eating these punches, man. Like that's just again that speaks to his greatness. And obviously, nobody wants to be great at taking punches, but like if you're getting hit, like you got a good chin, then you got a good chin, right? So just all around, like man, like that's just how great he was as a fighter.
Yeah, because we know once he comes back from being in exile for the 3 years for not going to Vietnam, he's slower and
Right.
he's heavier, and he has to kind of take some punches to an extent in some of those great fights. But so we look at like later Ali as Rumble in the Jungle and the first Ali Frazier and Thriller Manila, Ernie Shavers. He took some big hits from Ernie Shavers and
Yeah.
stuff, and Ken Norton. So we look at that. But right here, we see in this part of his career, Liston hits him with some good stuff, and we're going to see later on what Liston does to try to get the advantage, and he has to survive that. As dirty as it was,
Right.
he takes shots to have to survive it. Henry Cooper had knocked him down in Wembley Stadium, and he winds up coming back out the next round after he's wobbly in his corner. He comes back out and he gets the TKO. So throughout his career, this guy could just take a punch, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing, man. So here we go. That's round 4. Not an exciting round, but I still give it. I still give it to Cassius Clay.
Let's go back to Joe Lewis. Joe, we'll get that shot right into the. Look at him. What do you think is going through this youngster's
So
mind?
now we start seeing what's going on. Very controversial
Well, he's
5th round.
talking a lot now. I don't know who he's like he's arguing with his
Something's in his eye, and that's what's going on. What's in his eye? What's happening? And there's that controversy. Did Liston's corner purposely do this? Did he purposely do this?
Is the fella surprising you? Is Sonny surprising you?
Great camera work. You know what I mean? For 1964, man, they were right in there. They were able to see all of that. So that was great camera work.
But, and this is also, we said on the podcast, but members of the Nation of Islam are out there in the audience, but they're by this corner, and they're seeing what's going on with his eyes, and they're wondering, is Angelo Dundee doing something?
They're yelling from Cassius Clay's corner. Something got in his right eye.
Yeah, and look at him now. He's not moving around. He can't see what he's doing.
And you see Liston's hitting him.
He's going to take some shots right here, man. Those body shots hurt.
And he knows it. Sonny knows. Like, this is where it's incredible. One of the more amazing things in a fight is what this round, how he survives this. And he's blinded.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how he didn't get knocked out, but he did it.
Angelo told him, just run, But it's just amazing. And to me, I think probably the only round that Sonny really wins is this round.
And he had to do what he had to do to get it. You know what I mean? But even now, he's like still not able to hit him. You know what I mean? Like he's missing a lot of these shots.
Yeah, he's not. He started off good, but there's some body shots there. But
yeah, that was a good body shot. So he's sticking that hand out so he can feel them.
Yeah. This is where his side, there's some things that are physical there's things that you just can't control. If Ali is 6 foot, if he's 3 inches shorter, does he survive this round? We see he's able to feel him out and kind of he has good ring sense, but he's got to go 3 minutes of trying to hopefully this ligament gets out of his eyes.
Yeah, he's taking some shots at this point. But the crazy part is once he's able to see a little bit, this entire round shifts. Yeah, I think at this point now he's able to
he's getting a little bit better.
1 minute to go, number 5.
And I've no means as a boxer. I've sparred a few times. I don't think anyone, until you get in there, and I'm not saying I was like in there. I just did it a little bit when I was younger, but just how long I think people don't realize how long 3 minutes, as fans realize, 3 minutes, for him to avoid getting knocked out, that's an eternity, 3 minutes. Like,
yeah, it's a long time. You got a guy coming down on you, man, and he's just trying to survive. No, he took another left right there. Like, he took some shots this round.
I always laugh because when people are like, they name the fighter, any era, could you last 30 seconds with so-and-so? Oh, yeah, I could. It is that pride coming. Like, people don't realize how long 30 seconds is. It's like, you don't get it. And I know, I couldn't last 30 seconds with pro fighters, like.
Oh, hell no.
But people, how many guys have you met who get mad when they hear that? Oh, I could do that.
Yep. So we're here round 6 now, and obviously you can see Cassius Clay is starting to throw more punches, so his vision is clearing up a little bit. That was Sonny's shot pretty much in this fight, and I think at this point he understands that.
We jumped right into it, but do you think there was some foul play?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like I think, I definitely do, because which other way he's going to get that in him? Like, so now he's like, all right, it's my turn.
Our guy Eddie Machin, he said afterwards that he believes Liston deliberately did it. He said the same thing happened to him when he fought Sonny in 1960. The same thing happened to him.
Yeah.
When he lost. But
no proof of that.
Yeah. But no, you have to look at it and just we know boxing was dirty at this point. Like, it's not just Sonny Liston, but Sonny has those mob ties. Who knows how much money is involved? Do they want to give up the belt like that? It's just crazy. Both these fights, they have the rematch, I believe, a year later.
Yeah.
It's just marred in controversy. Both of these fights, and it just adds to the lore. Going on 60 years later.
Yeah. The second one was bad look for boxing.
Yeah. And really damages Liston's legacy.
Yeah, he was done after that.
It cements it.
Ali's back with the jab, back with the 1-2, keeping Liston away. Liston is probably exhausted from that 5th round of throwing all those punches.
Slightly less than a minute more.
And I should have looked it up to get ready for this, but I wanted to just what people say. How long does it take to get that out your eyes? So I don't know. And also, all they had was water.
Right.
Does that really help it? I don't know.
Right. Again, Angelo Dundee did a great job in that corner, man. Whatever he did, it got out of there. I mean, it's a round, but still, got it out. I mean, it's probably still burning a little bit, but he can see. That had to hurt, man.
Mm-hmm.
He's just tagging him, smacking him with these jabs, man. Liston stopped throwing the jab at this point,
Tricky left lead, left jab.
And he throws a jab as soon as I say that.
Seconds remaining.
But he was nowhere near as active as he was even in the previous 2-3 rounds. Sonny Liston, I mean.
Yeah, I think he just knows it's a mental warfare.
Yeah.
And he threw his best, haymaker, not literally, but with the liniment, his best way to win, and how psychologically damaging that must be that he couldn't get him down.
Yeah.
He knew he was blinded.
Absolutely. That's why he's so active.
So to me, that has to just mentally, if I'm that, and I'm like, I didn't get him when he's blinded, I didn't get him, it's hard to bounce back after that. Yeah, I think at that point you see a defeated Sonny Liston in that last round. And that eye is swollen. Man, you're right. The camera views in the 60s here, they're doing a good job.
They're right in there, yeah.
Will this make a difference in Liston's
But you can see they're having a lot of conversations in that corner.
I think he don't see too well out both his eyes now because they're pretty well popped out.
Yeah, both his eyes are starting to swell up a little bit. So you can see those conversations already taking place.
He knows it. He wanted to send him to heaven. He beat him in 7.
Get up there, Joe. Get up there. Get up in the ring.
So they sending Joe Louis in that ring. Joe Louis ain't want to be in there.
Bundini Brown hugging him.
And he's still sitting down, man. Toughest man in the world. Did not want to keep fighting. Let the celebration begin.
I think this is what happened to Roberto Duran was, near 17 years later.
Yep.
Is what happened to Sonny Liston, in my opinion. Just couldn't get him, psychologically couldn't get him, didn't want to deal with it anymore.
Yep.
And, he didn't verbally say no mas, but this is no mas before no mas right here.
Yeah. And we talked about it a little bit, Deremy, on the podcast, podcast episode. The media had a field day with Sonny Liston. All those times that, they were interviewing him, he was giving 1 or 2 word answers. He was staring at them all crazy, trying to intimidate them. They jumped all over this, calling him a coward, calling him all types of names, man. And I don't think anyone deserves that, but he didn't show up today.
What happened was you have 2 black champions, and we mentioned it on the podcast about the media is all white. So you have no people of color, you have no women, it's white men and who's in the media, and that's just what we're seeing here. So there's no good, like Floyd Patterson versus Liston, there's their quote-unquote good guy and the bad guy. Clay talks too much, Liston and all his stuff, and he doesn't give them anything in his, criminal record. They use that against him. So it's two bad guys, so they're really going to have a field day with either one.
Yeah.
Well, try to get him. Try to get him if you can. Meanwhile, Barney Felix, the referee. Barney, you stopped the fight at the end of 6. That recorded.
You can hear him in the background.
You hear him.
It is a 7th round knockout.
It's recorded as a 7th round knockout. And thank you, Barney.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess they needed to know. That's a knockout?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, Barney.
Stop it. She didn't get up. Yeah.
Okay, get Cassius Clay. Wait. Whoa.
After getting blinded and fighting all that energy he has, like,
yeah,
king of the world. I'm a bad man.
I love this part right here. I don't have a scar on my face.
Bedlam busting out here.
Great, I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. If God's with me, ain't nobody be against me. I shook up the world.
Yo, Ellis is struggling with this interview, but you gotta just let him go.
You told me when you visited in Los Angeles you could do it in 8. Well, you thought Sonny and figured Sonny was great. How come you did it in 6 or 7? You did it in 7.
I had him going in 8. I was getting ready to take him in the 8th, as you could see. But the man stopped it just to keep him making me look so great.
I see. Now, give us that poetry on number 7.
He wanted to go to heaven, so I took him in 7.
You took him in 7.
I am the king of the world.
Hold it.
I'm pretty.
Hold it. You're not that pretty.
I'm a man.
Joe Louis, like, get me the hell out of here, man.
I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
Wait a minute.
You must listen to me. I am the double.
All right, hold it. Ladies and gentlemen.
And this is like the total opposite of what Joe Louis was. And he's just like, man, get me out of here.
No one knew that's the thing. We, later generations, we love Ali. We love what he did, what he represented. He winds up, and in less than 24 hours later, he becomes arguably like the most hated man in America. One of the, he's a top 5 up there. And then he's young, brash, and doing this.
Oh yeah,
white America couldn't stand this.
Oh yeah. They still don't stand it, and it's 2024. You know what I'm saying? When you got a guy talking a lot and stuff like that in any sport, people hate that.
But you look at it, the vice versa, the flip side. Look at Conor McGregor and his antics and what he said, and how he's in, or even Brock Lesnar and things like that. It's not the same venom.
Yeah,
that you're seeing.
Even Tyson Fury, like, he talked a lot.
The manager of the World Heavyweight Champion. The manager on record, Angelo Domniho, along with Bill Fabersham and the 10 other Louisville gentlemen who had him. The Louisville.
But this is one of the great sporting events of the 20th century right here. And I do think it's just what, time changes so much because, growing up in the 90s, this fight still had that lore.
Yeah.
And I know there's been documentaries and movies, but I do feel like it's kind of forgotten when it comes to the legacy of Ali. People kind of I know if you're talking about, you're going to mention this fight, but they're going to automatically go to the first Ali Frazier, Thriller in Manila, Foreman. And I feel like this fight kind of gets overlooked.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is we talked about it on the episode, on the podcast episode. This is probably the most important fight that in the history of boxing, maybe. You know what I mean?
It's up there.
It's definitely up there. And the importance of this fight and what happens afterwards, and the way it shifted sports culture, American culture, history, whatever you want to call it. It's a monumental victory right here that we just witnessed.
No problem if the money's
No, and you're right. You gotta look at what Jack Johnson and Jeffries. What happened with Jack Dempsey had some big fights too, but
right.
This is right up there though. Most important fights.
I'm so great until Sonny Liston was not even a match. I don't have a mark on my face in the 5th round. He had liniment in his head. He had liniment in his gloves, and I couldn't do nothing but hold him and duck.
Now, hold it, y'all. Sonny, Cassius, you said my eyes was burning. Right. We thought that maybe Ange or one of your cornermen put some stuff on the towel by mistake.
The man
Yeah, this dude.
He had liniment. Liniment in his head.
Did he stick you with his thumb? Is that what you're trying to say?
My whole face is burning.
Your face was burning.
I whooped him. He couldn't even hurt me. And I very much submit. I'm the prettiest thing that ever lived.
Hold it. Here's a
I
guy.
just took up the world.
Joe, come on in and ask.
I won't
ask Cassius.
Yo, he was on fire right
He had
now.
every right to say it. He wants justice.
Wait a minute. No excuse.
Open eye.
No excuse. Joe, tell him.
It was a big cut eye.
Go ahead, Joe. Tell him. It wasn't a cut eye.
Doctor say he pulled his left arm out of the socket.
Swinging and nothing. Who wouldn't?
Also got it.
Sam Cook. Hey, let that man up here.
No, wait, hold
Sam
it,
Cook.
hold it now.
That's right. Let him up
Great
there.
Sam Cook.
Let that man up. He's coming up. Now listen, Cassius, hold it.
This is Sam Cook.
We see him. Joe, ask Cassius another question.
Let's stay on me. This is the
All right,
world's
Jab.
greatest rock and roll singer.
All right.
World's greatest rock and roll singer.
Sam Cook, yeah.
Very good friend, a good vocalist with Cassius. Excuse me. Move back if you will.
You know what's crazy is Malcolm X is there, Sam Cook's there. December of this year, Sam Cook is dead. Next February, Malcolm X is dead.
Right. And these are his friends, man. You know what I'm saying? It's a terrorist tragedy, man.
So we got to remember that. He's doing all this. He's fighting for religious rights, for racial rights, all these things. And he's not from afar. He's seeing people he's close with getting killed. And for him to keep persisting, to keep going, to not to take that step in Vietnam. Many people say, and I happen to agree, that if he would have went to Vietnam, they just like with Joe Louis when he went to the war, he wasn't really in danger. He kind of was an exhibition for the soldiers, and he wasn't in harm's way. Many people say they wouldn't have put him in harm's way, and I kind of think so.
Right. And Roberto Clemente was also in the military, and he was there just kind of doing some other stuff. So, no, I agree too. You know.
But that shows the courage he had to take that step. And, you know, what happens from this fight, from him winning, and the next day when he announces publicly his affiliation with the Nation of Islam is why they put him up for the draft and why all that stuff happened, and leads to he becomes the big spokesperson, the big icon for anti-Vietnam, you know, for the counterculture of the 60s. Like that's what this fight has, Jose.
Yeah.
What it leads to. We're talking civil rights movement, Nation of Islam, the Vietnam War, some of the defining things of probably the most defining things of the last half of the 20th century this fight incorporates all that, and this win incorporates all that.
Yeah, and he, just like you mentioned, Deremy, like even people like white people who were against the war, a lot of like those hippies and things like that, loved Ali. You know what I mean, for what he was standing for, and the type of person that he was. Even again, if they weren't African American, if they were just white, like they still loved him because of that. Like, so by taking that stance, he just brought in a whole generation of young people who thought he was like amazing for doing what he was doing, right? But then on the flip side of that, you had your, like blue collar, like hardworking American citizen that, was very offended that him taking that stance. So it was just, the man was dealt with so much in his life and his career, man. I'm amazed that he was able to get through all of that so much and just still stay on top of that.
And it's a different, I always, what gets tripped up, we can look at it where it's the greatest, right? Ali called himself the great. You heard it right here. After this, I am the greatest, and a lot of people, that's what they goes by. Like, there's, Muhammad Ali, the greatest. You hear Wayne Gretzky, the great one. But there's a difference between greatest and the best. And at the beginning of this, we heard Sugar Ray Robinson, and I think definitely he's the best fighter of all time. But is Muhammad Ali the greatest? And I ask that because with best is like who's just the best at it. Pound for pound, the best fighter in the world. Who's the best? But greatest has what we talk about on our podcast, the legacy and the impact and all these things. And it's just tough. Who made a bigger impact than him?
No one. Like it's not, especially in boxing. You know what I mean? Like in a sport where a lot of guys, it was either, you kind of like play to the media and things like that to go ahead and move your career ahead, or you're just kind of like a Sonny Liston, a haggler, where you don't do any of that, and your career is just as hard because you have to do so many other things. You have to fight longer, you have to fight more to get noticed. And he did, and he was, again, he won in the Olympics, so that was, at this point in time, that was like automatic stardom in boxing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you won gold in the Olympics, like, you already, like, they're waiting for you to turn pro and they're waiting for you to watch your fights. But Ali had some of that, but again, I think once he turned into Muhammad, once he like changed his name to Muhammad Ali and things like that all went out the window. Nobody care about that. And so to me, like, I think everything that he represented, everything that he dealt with, and still remaining on top, he's the greatest. It's no one even like is a far second place. Like, I think he's just at a level on his own, a tier in his own.
Yeah, and what he did, and what helps is and he was able to, he had Parkinson's later in life, but able to see that the public saw, which a lot of these activists didn't, and a lot of these popular people, I mentioned Sam Cooke dying, Malcolm X dying, Dr. King dying. History has shown that they were right, and they're looked at differently, but they didn't live long enough to sniff any of that. JFK or Bobby Kennedy, these figures, they didn't see that. Ali had the Parkinson's, but he was able to see that people looked at him and like, he had a right for religious freedom. That's what the country talks about, but they wanted to take that away and hold it against him. He had a right for religious reasons to not take that step and be drafted. And the reasoning behind it, for religion, but the reasoning behind it, saying no Viet Cong ever called me nigger. Like, he had those things there, and people look at it and say, yeah, he said, my oppressor is right here. It's not so other people of color across the world for fighting for who knows what. He was able to see that. The world was able to see how right he was and how courageous he was to take these stands.
Just his impact. Just think about, what was that, 96 Summer Olympics?
Mm-hmm.
What was the biggest moment in that whole Olympic whatever? Was Ali lighting the torch. You know what I'm saying? And him standing there with Parkinson's, standing there with the torch in his hand,
and
shaking.
that's with a bombing that happened too.
Right. And that's the first thing I remember about the 96 Summer Olympics was Ali lighting that torch up like that. And this is 40 plus years later, you know what I'm saying? Like, or whatever it is. This man was an amazing man, like not even sports figure. He just, what he stood for and what he stood on, you know what I'm saying? You always hear kids nowadays like, oh, I stand on this. This is standing on something, you know what I'm saying? Like he stood on his stuff and he would not budge, you know what I'm saying? And no matter who was, government was coming at him, the Nation of Islam was coming at him at one point, you know, all, and just not only that, all these great fighters now coming at him. It's amazing that he got through all of that and still remained on top, and still years and years and years and years and years later was still beloved by this country.
There's I think about, you know, when he passed away and a lot of things came about, and for me it's two things. A lot of famous pro athletes, pro entertainers. I remember seeing Jesse the Body Ventura, and he's in pro wrestling and all, but getting emotional, crying. Guy who did fight, and he fought in Nam, was a Navy SEAL, talking about he met Ali and that's his hero, what he did. So many athletes, so many people at that time talk about when, you know, Ali lost to Frazier, they cried, or meeting Ali, what that means to them and how just powerful it was and how they look up to him. And it's something I struggled because, you know, we have the era of Michael Jordan, how big Jordan was. And, you know, we're not Chicago guy, but still Jordan to me was, Chicago had him, but he was bigger than Chicago.
Yeah.
Everybody had him. But I didn't feel any like, I'm going to cry for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I didn't understand it until looking like just what was going on in those formative years at that time in the 60s and into the 70s, what he represented, what he took on. I don't know. Part of me thinks I don't know if we'll ever have an athlete quite like that. And I don't think I want to have an athlete like that because I don't want someone to have to take on all this stuff like he had to take on, and like Clemente took on, and Jackie Robinson took on, and so many other guys of that time. I don't want someone, a man or woman, have to take on all the stuff that he did.
Yeah, I don't think we ever are going to see anything like this, you know, like, because he was like the total package, you know what I'm saying? Like, and not only was he great at his sport, he, you know, he represented, in my opinion, like the nation well, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what he did behind closed doors, things like that. That's none of my business, but like, you know, he always stood on that, you know what I mean? Like, and even like, you know, when he had to deal with everything again with the Vietnam issue, like he stood on that. It's not like he wasn't doing what he was just doing in the ring just now, yelling and screaming. No, he represented himself well, and people didn't like it, but still, like, they had to respect his stance, and a lot of people did respect it. And I don't think you'll ever see a combination of that ever again. Because to your point with Michael Jordan, what's one of the biggest like knocks on Jordan's legacy and career? It was all about the brand, you know what I'm saying? Like he did not get involved in a lot of these things. Ali was not worried about that, and if anything, his brand suffered big time because of some of the stuff that he was standing on and felt like was very important to him. So I think now, especially nowadays, a lot of these athletes are about the brand. You know what I'm saying? Like they may speak on a few things, but it's very carefully, and we didn't get that with Ali. We got what he was outspoken. We got what he was thinking. We got what he was feeling, and it was just all unfiltered. You know what I'm saying? Like some of it was controversial to a lot of people, some of it was not. You know, so I don't. Again, we talked about it on the podcast episode. Like so much just kind of like linked together to make this one individual the greatest of all time. You know what I'm saying? Like the GOAT thing started with Ali. You know what I'm saying? Like he was the one that kind of like started all that. So I don't know. I don't think we will ever see anything like this again.
No, he's just that iconic, and I love quotes, and one of my favorite quotes, and one that sticks to me every day, and I'm not exaggerating, is when he's up there and he's being pressed and he's in front of, you know, committee, judges and different people when he didn't take that step to go to Vietnam, and he says, "I'm not here to be who you want me to be, and I'm not afraid to be who I want to be." And that quote, always I think about that all the time, because if you don't know, it sounds like, yeah, of course, we see it all the time now. Be you, be
Yeah.
your true self, and blah blah blah. That's really hard, man.
It is hard. Yeah.
It's hard, like to do that, and people say it like it's simple. It's not, and
No.
we live it every day. Where how much am I going to show of myself? How much am I going to put on the line? How much am I going to offend this person? That like, it's not easy to do that, and you can really look at him and say, the man talked it, and he lived it too. So it's just. It's hard for me. There's very few episodes we've done on YouTube or it's up there. That's something that defines what the name of our show is, bigger than the game.
Yes.
Like this is top of that list, where like this fight it's so much bigger than the game. It's so much bigger than what happened in the ring, and the ripple effects that what it's done to this day, unmatched.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that right there, Deremy, because again, like that was very well said, and that's why we did this podcast. That's why we named it what we named it. We're bigger than the game, because a lot of these things are bigger than what the actual event, game, whatever was, and this fight was, to Deremy's point, a perfect example of that. Like this was way bigger than a boxing match, and obviously it turned into that. So it's a great point, Deremy. Thank you.
No, thank you, man, and please follow us on Twitter at Bigger Game Pod, at Instagram at Bigger Game Pod. Let us know what you think about this fight, what you think about Ali, his legacy as iconic athletes, but really as iconic American figures of the 20th century. He's one of the few athletes who's on that list, and he's high on the list. So please, follow. Listen to the podcast, Bigger Than the Game with Deremy and Jose, and tell people about that. Subscribe there and subscribe on here, Bigger Than the Game with Deremy and Jose, for our YouTube channel. We're going to be you can look at our past episodes for rewatches. We're going to have plenty of more coming to you. So, Jose, man, this was special. Thanks for doing this with me.
Absolutely. I couldn't wait. When we kind of mapped out what we're going to do, this one stuck out big time.
Yeah,
so I couldn't wait to do it. Yeah.
So for my tag team partner, Mr. Jose Ruiz, I'm Deremy Dove. Thank you guys for watching Bigger Than the Game with Deremy and Jose.
Peace.